Hello everybody, welcome back, Nooblet here. So if this is either the first time you're stopping by my channel or maybe you've seen some of my Let's Plays, and in a lot of them I'm actually not even on, there's no video of me, it's just my voice in the background, disembodied voice in the background. So I thought I'd start this quick sort of video series, recap maybe on Fridays of, I don't know, random thoughts, ramblings, other upcoming things that happened, etc, etc, etc. So figured it'd be a good day to start today because we've actually got a lot of stuff going on this weekend. Blizzcon, I believe, is set to start in like 30 minutes or something like that. Then, of course, Monday is N7 Day, and it's overall just going to be a fairly busy weekend. I'm actually going to Youmacon this Saturday, tomorrow. So yeah, figured it was a good weekend to get this started. So obviously, who I am is, I suppose, a techie in the broad sort of sense. I love building my own computers. I just love having latest and greatest gadgets, and I'm just all about technology as a whole. Other thing is, I grew up a gamer. You know, I remember my first consoles. I remember playing Super Mario. I remember being a diehard Nintendo fan, even when the PlayStation released, and I was kind of like, no, who needs PlayStation? Nintendo's the way to go. I would say that that's shifted a little bit over the years. So that's me. My favorite games, as I've probably put in the About Me section, tend to be RPGs, primarily because my focus is on stories. So that doesn't entirely mean that I only play RPGs or that's the only games I like, but my big thing is about whether a game tells a story or not. So games like Uncharted, they tell an amazing story. The Order 1886, amazing game. I know there was a lot of controversy over whether it was too short or not. I personally loved the game. I thought it had a good pace. If the game had been any longer, they would have screwed over the story. So, you know, as I said, it's all about story for me. I do, however, focus on games that are only in a third-person camera, top-down view, isometric, whatever. I primarily don't play first-person games. Couple of reasons. The main one being that they give me motion sickness. I have yet to find any game with a first-person camera that doesn't make me just dizzy, and I have to stop playing it after like half an hour, and then I feel sick for like the rest of the day. If you watch one of my recent Dead Space videos, you'll hear my husband and I having a conversation about other things that I don't like about first-person games, so I'll post a link down here if you want to go listen to that conversation. I won't go all over it again here. What else? I am trying to get more into cosplay. Since I was little, I used to love dressing up. And Halloween was my favorite, one of my favorite holidays. I mean, it's a close second to Christmas there. Because I love costumes and makeup and dressing up. And, well, what better way to evolve that than cosplay? So that's what I'm working on right now. We are working on getting a basement workshop set up. I'm setting up this whole little sci-fi studio apartment in my basement, which is actually going to double as a crafting room, and I will go take a quick tour of that in a minute. So that's what I'll be working on over the next few weeks. Once that's done, I'm hoping to get some live streams started, and you guys can join us on our adventures in learning to craft a lot of things. I recently completed our Halloween costumes, which was a witch and a warlock. There's a couple of posts about that over on my blog, and there was also a couple of posts on Facebook, so feel free to go check those out. Because of that, I'm trying, and just because I'm trying to be a healthier person overall, I am trying to get better at going to the gym. So I started trying to focus on that this week. I've made it a point to try to wake up early, 5:45, if you can believe it, and get to the gym, at least for 30 minutes. I'm starting with 30 minutes because that meant I didn't have to wake up that much earlier. This morning, however, I had a bit of an adventure. I did not make it to the gym, but hear me out. There's a perfectly valid reason. I was driving down the road, and the road had like it's one lane on either side and then a middle lane. And in the middle lane, as I drove by, I saw a possum that I thought was attempting to cross the street. And, it was fairly dark, so I didn't see it until right after I'd passed them. And I didn't hit him or anything, but I did get a little bit concerned. There wasn't that much traffic, but I was a little bit concerned that he wouldn't make it across the street. So I kept debating on going back or not, and I ended up deciding to turn around and go back and see if I could, see if he'd made it across the street or if I could maybe help him get across the street. Because that's me. I wasn't entirely sure how I was going to even help him get across the street, but yeah, I was going to try. When I got there, he was still in the middle lane. Luckily, this particular area wasn't very busy because on one side of the street there was a daycare center, and on the other side it was the entrance to some apartments or condos or something. But being so early, there wasn't a lot of traffic in that middle lane, so he hadn't moved. I did when So I parked in the middle lane, turned on my emergency flashers, and when I started getting close, I saw that he was bleeding from the top of his head and mouth, so I realized he had probably been clipped by a car. I realize this probably hasn't come across in any of my videos. I love animals. All kinds of animals, maybe, except for insects, which I think they're not quite the animal kingdom. Anyway, so I decided I was going to try to save him. I didn't know if I could. I couldn't really see the extent of his injuries. I could just see he was bleeding on one side, and he wasn't really moving. He looked mostly dazed. So I grabbed my coat, and I tried to put it on top of him. At first, my intention was to try to gauge whether or not I'd be able to grab him just with my coat. I had nothing else with me. So I grabbed my coat, and I slowly put him on top of him. At first, he wasn't really too keen. He sort of turned around and, I don't know, what did possums do? He sort of growled at me. I don't even know. But after a little bit, he let me put it on top of him. I figured maybe he was cold. I mean, he was hurt and dazed, and maybe he was a little bit cold. In the meantime, I tried to find any emergency vet service that might take care of him, and luckily I did find that the Humane Society nearby did have people equipped to handle that, and they did have a voicemail line where I could leave a message and somebody would call me back in a few minutes. So I did that, and they called me back, and they asked him if I thought I had any way of getting him to the Humane Society, because I was actually in between, right on the edge of the two counties, and they actually serviced the county that I wasn't in. But if I could get him there, they could take care of him. So long story short, after sitting out there for 15 minutes, I probably sat out there for 20 minutes, actually, just with my car parked in the middle lane. I made sure to leave the lights on and everything because I didn't want to get run over. And while I waited for them to call me back, and I did manage, it was a little bit of a process. I managed to finally pick him up, and at first he wasn't too happy, so I had to do it in steps. I picked him up and I put him on the hood of my car. And then I sort of let him acclimate there for a second, and then I wrapped him up again, and I put him in my trunk because I had no box or anything, and I just decided to drive carefully. They told me that it was going to take me about 15 minutes to get to the Humane Society, and they were going to take about 30 minutes to get in from where they were. So I stopped by my house really quick, which was on the way, and I picked up a little big Tupperware box, those. I'll put it up on screen over here in a second. And I just transferred him to that when I got home, put him in my back seat, and then continued on my merry way to the Humane Society. So I got him there. That blue coat that you see that he's hanging onto in the picture, kind of lost that already. It was covered in blood from where he was bleeding around the mouth and stuff, and by the time I got to the Humane Society, he seemed pretty comfortable with it, so I figured, whatever. It didn't cost me that much money, and he was comfortable with it, so I left it. Here's hoping that the Humane Society could help him. I mean, I couldn't really tell the extent of his injuries. Safe to say I never made it to the gym. But I still don't feel that bad about that. I'm really hoping they can help him. So go ahead and wish him luck. So let's talk about this weekend a little bit. And this weekend we have a few things going on. First things first, Blizzcon. Now, I'm not what I would consider myself a Blizzard super fan, and that anything that Blizzard makes I just automatically buy or play or whatever. I do play WoW. I've been playing WoW since 2005, beginning of 2005. On and off, I would say, actually. I played through Vanilla, which I really liked back then. I'm not fond of a lot of the changes that have happened over the years, but I played through Vanilla, and I quit before the Burning Crusade came out, and I didn't play the entire Burning Crusade, and I came back with Wrath of the Lich King because, I don't know, the fact that you were finally going to conclude the Lich King story and the way the expansion looked, I really decided I needed to go back, so I did back then. And to this day, I haven't outright quit since. It's more like I go back every expansion, and eventually a few months in, after I get bored of the grind, I quit. To date, even including Legion, I would say that Lich King was probably the best expansion that WoW did. My personal opinion, anyway. If you follow my channel at all, you might have recently seen that I did play Legion and that I did a video series of the starting area of the Demon Hunters. And I really liked that, actually. Legion has bored me in the last couple of weeks. Actually, it's... Despite how good I thought the expansion was at the beginning, it got grindy really quick. Like, by the time you reached Suramar, it doesn't feel that epic. It just feels like, oh, good. They just threw me at a rep grind. Awesome. I didn't even get to finish all the zones before I started a rep grind. Anyway, so here's something to see. I don't know what they're going to announce. Probably nothing WoW related because the expansion came out and I can't imagine what else they have to say about it. Other thing is the rumors of a Diablo 4, if you've been hearing them. I don't know what to make of that yet. I personally didn't think we needed a Diablo 4. I would have been happy enough with a Diablo 3 expansion. So I don't know where they're going with it. We'll see if there truly is a Diablo 4 or what's going on with that. So I'm looking forward to that. As for anything else at Blizzcon, I don't play Overwatch. I mentioned that recently in my unboxing video. And it's not that I have anything against the game, it's just it's not my type of game. I really don't do competitive gaming of any kind. As I mentioned, I don't do first-person shooters of any kind. And part of me really wished that the game had been something else, maybe more of a Diablo-esque style of game, because I really, really love their animated shorts and the story that there seems to be behind Overwatch. I don't much care for the gameplay, and because I don't feel like it moves the story forward in any way. So, StarCraft. I have played StarCraft. I actually haven't played the 2 expansions. I played the base game through the campaign only, not anything else. And I always meant to get the expansions, and I just haven't gotten around to it. So maybe sometime soon I'll get that. I can't imagine that there will be any announcements for StarCraft, but we'll see. And I'm going to use the last couple of minutes to talk about the last major thing on my agenda this weekend. And it's technically not this weekend. It's Monday, and it is N7 Day. Many of you know what that means. It's Mass Effect related, and it's November 7th. And we, I think, are expecting a lot of announcements for Mass Effect Andromeda. Now, I personally don't know how to feel about Mass Effect Andromeda. The reality is that I am one of the people that absolutely despised the ending of Mass Effect 3. And as a whole, the ending of the series. I loved the series up until that point. I even loved Mass Effect through all of the stuff that happens. And, you know, possible spoiler warning here. I didn't even mind when some of my characters died in Mass Effect 3, and because it felt like it all had a purpose. You know, they moved the story along somehow. They went along with what the characters' personalities truly were. And as sad as they made me, like, I started crying when Mordin died. I quite literally started crying when Mordin died, and I literally cried when Legion died. And yeah, that's that was the only 2 characters I lost. But once we got to the ending, and when I originally saw the ending, it was back when the game released and my husband was playing through it, we both sat there just kind of like stunned, I would say, into silence as the credits started rolling. I mean, I think we were a little bit stunned when the retarded Star Child showed up, but we always hoped that it would somehow resolve better than it did. And we watched the entire credits, and then you get that whole grandfather talking to his grandson and tell me about the shepherd, and it was just like, what the hell just happened? Because to me it was completely disjointed. It was like the ending of Mass Effect 3, and even a lot of Mass Effect 3, was just trying to force the one point of view of the writers. It could seem like the ending was like, no, we say the game has to end like this and there's no choice, which was, I felt, very at odds with the way that Mass Effect 2 could end. Well, sure, the overall story wouldn't change, you know, the overall outcome of the collector base wouldn't change. The story could go from you and your entire team survive to some people die, and, you know, that could vary depending on what choices you made, who lived or who died, to everybody dies, including Commander Shepard. And that, to me, again, it maybe didn't change the overall storyline. You know, you still went through the Omega-4 relay, you still destroyed the collector base. But the fact that there was a possibility that you could do it so badly that even Shepard could die, it spoke volumes to me of the possibility of your decisions. You know, of like, every decision you made could have an effect. And they promised that this would be included in Mass Effect 3. You know, oh yeah, we're importing thousands of variables and every decision you made is going to count. It didn't really, though. At the end, it was just a somewhat of a, I don't even know what to call it. It was just numbers, right? Like, every decision you made accounted to some amount of galactic readiness, and that was pretty much it. So I hated, and as much as I love BioWare games, as much as I have loved BioWare games over the year, I hated the ending of Mass Effect 3. I think they ruined what was a really good story. And this is just my personal opinion. I'm not saying that everybody agrees with it. I know that a lot of people were satisfied between the extended cut and the Leviathan DLC and all that stuff, and to some people it made sense. To me, it made less sense, actually, once the Leviathan DLC and stuff released. The possibilities of the ending made even less sense to me. So, to me, Mass Effect Andromeda was a game that didn't need to exist. We're going to compare two series here, and that's the Dragon Age series and the Mass Effect series. And that is, Dragon Age, from the beginning, their point has been to tell the story of Thedas. Not of the Warden, not of Hawk, and even now, not of the Inquisitor. It's the story of Thedas. And they made that very clear after they made Dragon Age 2. And I know we were probably all shocked. Like, wait, where's my Warden? I want to be my Warden. I don't care about this character, whoever they are. It's like, I want the Warden back. The Warden's the important one. But BioWare said, no, the story of the Warden is over, at least for now. So here we were. We're Hawk. And for all the issues that Dragon Age 2 had, I actually do like the game. So then you move on to Dragon Age Inquisition. Now Hawk and the Warden are gone, and you're the Inquisitor, this new person, the Herald of Andraste. So they kind of cemented, yeah, we're telling the story of this world, we're not telling the story of any one particular character throughout the course of their life. So Dragon Age can continue through as many games as they want because it just has to relate to Thedas and what started with the Blight, you know, and then the Mage-Templar War and so on and so forth. Mass Effect, to me, and I think to a lot of people, was the story of Commander Shepard and the story of the Reaper invasion. So I feel like going on a tangent from that is kind of pointless. Like, yes, Mass Effect has its own universe that they've created with all its technologies and stuff, and I'm not saying you can't expand on it. But from the way you ended Mass Effect 3 to then creating another one, I feel like you should have just created another series, called it something else. Hell, if you even base it in the Mass Effect universe and just call it Andromeda instead of Mass Effect Andromeda, to me that made more sense. But Mass Effect was ultimately the story of Shepard. You were the same character through 3 games. And so I've spent the last few years, I never replayed Mass Effect 3 or any of the series after the ending because I thought it was pointless. And I'm not going to go into why I'm replaying it now, because I am, and I actually plan on debuting my Mass Effect playthrough on November 7th, because what else is more fitting? And I'll go into why I'm willing to replay the series now. But it basically has to do with modders and the modding community in particular, despite the fact that BioWare and EA never quite seemed to support it. So stay tuned, watch that. I'm sure that in my rantings during that playthrough, you'll get to know all my reasons for why I'm willing to replay it. So I'm willing to give it a shot, though. because of the modding community, I am willing to forget the travesty that I consider BioWare did with Mass Effect 3 and the ending. And therefore, I'm willing to give a shot to Mass Effect Andromeda. I am interested in some of the things they've announced. Like the idea, from what I've heard, is that the main characters, Ryder, regardless of who you choose, like the male or female, they're actually brother and sister, is what I've heard. So regardless of who you choose, the other one still exists in the universe, in the game. So I find that rather interesting. Mechanics-wise, I don't really know what to expect. I hope they keep mechanics more akin to maybe somewhere between Mass Effect 2 and 3. So we'll see what's going on. All right, well, I think I rambled on long enough. That was me in a nutshell, at least for this week. Anyway, that's an ever-changing thing. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. If you have any questions, comments, anything else you'd like to hear me talk about or ramble on about, feel free to post it in the comments below. I'm always taking suggestions. Also, if you guys are, let me know what you think about this weekend. If you guys are watching BlizzCon, if you're at BlizzCon, what are your hopes, dreams, expectations, likes, dislikes of both BlizzCon, of N7 Day, or anything else going on in your area? I'd love to hear about it as well. And stay tuned for my Mass Effect 2 series, which I will be debuting on November 7th, as I said. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.